voice. I want to take 1 minute to show you a new TV ad.
If you had a telephoto lens, maybe you'd see it. Deals cut in shadows and back rooms with contributions big corporations and government unions control politicians. It's killing California. 11% unemployment, high taxes, lavish pensions, billions in waste, $50 billion a year on education, but among the worst performing schools. Cut the money tie between special interest lobbyists and career politicians. Put people back in charge. Yes, on Prop 32.
Well, you know what? While we may not agree with it, it's pretty effective. It's just like those words of Dr. King up here on the screen, coming up. This quote comes from a campaign Dr. King was part of to defeat right to work in the state of Oklahoma in 1964. If Dr. King was alive today, I'm sure he'd be standing side by side with us working to defeat the equally deceptive Proposition 32. You know, this ad, sponsored by the Koch brothers and other multimillionaire ideologues, purports to want to take special interests out of politics. Who are the special interests? In the eyes of the Koch brothers, Maria Isabel Vasquez Jimenez was a special interest. Maria Isabel was 17 and pregnant when she worked all day in a 100+ degree heat in a vineyard near Stockton. She wasn't allowed to take breaks to get to the nearest water, a 10-minute walk away. She collapsed into the arms of her fiancé, also a farm worker. They were childhood sweethearts back in Oaxaca, Mexico. No one called 911. It was a long time before she got medical care. By then, her body temperature was 108 degrees. Maria Isabel fell into a coma. She and her unborn child died 2 days later. Earlier, when other farm workers died from the heat, California issued the first heat regulation in the nation to prevent such needless deaths. The labor movement did that. The labor movement did that. It didn't matter that Maria Isabel didn't carry a union card. The hot summer sun doesn't discriminate between those who have a union card and those who don't. Deaths in the fields have gone down. But farm workers are still dying from the heat because of lack of state enforcement. The United Farm Workers put 2 bills on Governor Brown's desk to beef up enforcement. If Proposition 32 had been the law, there would have been no heat regulation in 2005. There would be no bills beefing up enforcement this year. If Prop 32 was the law, more farm workers would be dying picking the crops that feed America, and no one would be doing anything about it. In the eyes of the Koch brothers, Romeo Trinidad is a special interest. Romeo has worked as a houseman at the Long Beach Hilton for more than 10 years. His wife is disabled. He has 2 teenage daughters. Romeo's American dream is simple: earn enough to afford a 2-bedroom apartment so his teenage daughters don't have to sleep in the living room. Romeo and his co-workers tried and tried to get management to improve conditions. They were ignored. So they joined with Unite Here to put a living wage initiative for hotel workers on the ballot in Long Beach. If Prop 32 had passed, there'd be no living wage initiative in Long Beach, and Romeo's dream of a 2-bedroom apartment for his family would remain just that, a dream. The labor movement is a voice for people who don't have a voice, and most of them aren't union members. That voice will be silenced if Prop 32 passes. Throughout California, from the fields to the factories, from the refineries of Torrance to the docks in San Pedro, from Hollywood movie sets to hospital floors, from the office buildings of Century City to the hotels of Beverly Hills, from classrooms to construction sites, we have reached out to and defended people who aren't us. But if Prop 32 passes, our voices will be silenced. Then our activism, our vision, and our commitment for all those workers will get crushed by the big money interests and by the politicians who pander to them. I've been in the labor movement for more than 30 years. I've worked on my share of reforms, laws, policies, and regulations like many of you. Laws that protect workers, that give them rights, that give them a voice. I never worked on one single reform that said these rights and protections apply only to workers who hold a union card. That's the story of the labor movement, giving a voice to the voiceless. And that will come to an end if Prop 32 passes. You know, you're never so vulnerable as when you're sick in the hospital. We've all been there. Big insurance companies have a huge voice in Sacramento. Corporate health care has a huge voice in Sacramento. Yet it was the union nurses who gave patients a voice in Sacramento. It was union nurses got lawmakers to pass groundbreaking nurse-patient ratios to ensure patients receive adequate nursing care. It was the union nurses. But if Prop 32 had been the law, those protections for patients would not have happened. The California Teachers Association gave more than $1 million to fight for marriage equality and stop Proposition 8. Marriage equality isn't about unionization, but the teachers were there anyway. If Prop 32 had been the law, the teachers would not have been able to stand up for marriage equality. If Prop 32 had been the law, the teachers would not be able to advocate for our students and for parents. If Prop 32 had been the law, the Inglewood Teachers Association would not have gotten lawmakers and the governor to rescue their district from a financially incompetent school board. If Prop 32 had been the law, our home care workers would not be able to advocate for their clients' welfare, for our disabled, for our ill, for our elderly, for our parents. Last April, Supervisor Mark Ridley Thomas brought lunch to hundreds of construction workers building the Martin Luther King Jr. Hospital. Mark was celebrating because his hard work will reopen this great institution. But he was also celebrating the fact that 38% of construction workers on the MLK site live within 5-mile radius of the hospital, in neighborhoods suffering severe unemployment. We're proud to have helped elect Mark to the Board of Supervisors. We're proud we helped push through a project labor agreement that resulted in all those high-quality construction jobs going to workers from the community to build the hospital the community desperately needs. And if Prop 32 had been the law, Mark probably wouldn't be a county supervisor. We wouldn't have a local hire policy on MLK Hospital, and we wouldn't have quality career construction jobs for local residents. We carry the responsibility of being a voice for all those who don't have a voice. Because if we don't speak up for them, if we don't fight for them, who will? The Koch brothers, Sheldon Adelson, Walmart, Wall Street, Bain Capital, the billionaires and the millionaires who underwrite the Tea Party and who put Prop 32 on the ballot. Brothers and sisters, if ever there was a time for us to rise to the occasion, this is it. This is it. We need to talk. Remember this. We need to talk to 1 million voters in LA County. 1 voter at a time. On the phones, at the workplaces, on the front porches, at the kitchen tables. And we do that, and we will defeat Prop 32. And you know what? When we win, we'll celebrate. But for one day, let's pledge to ourselves that beating Prop 32 isn't enough. That just brings us back to the status quo. And we shouldn't just ask those outside our movement to join us at election time because we need their votes. That sounds like what the politicians do. And we hate that, don't we? So let's also ask these same voters who work in nursing homes, they work at construction sites, in the classrooms, in the factories, just like we do, to join our movement. Join our movement. That will make our voice louder. That will make our voice bigger. That will make our voice stronger. Can we do that? Can we do that? Yes, we can. Sí se puede. Yes, we can. Yes, we can. Yes, we can. Yes, we can. Thank you, sisters and brothers. Yes, we can.